When I heard my disabled daughter screaming in the school hallway, I dropped everything and ran. And what I saw froze my blood. HOA Karen, yes, that Karen had her fist tangled in my daughter's hair as she ripped off her bugle, snapping it clean from her braces. My daughter was shaking, crying, bleeding from her mouth. But Karen made one mistake that would change her life forever. She didn't know the principal was standing right behind her, watching the entire thing. Before we dive into this shocking story, tell me which city you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments right now so I can see how far this message travels. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. You're helping this channel grow and helping more parents protect their kids. All right, let me take you straight into the moment everything went wrong. My daughter, Emily, isn't like every other kid. She's sweet, gentle, and moves a little slower because of her disability. She wears a bugle, a support brace that helps her jaw stay aligned. It's medically necessary, but to HOA Karen, it was apparently ugly. Karen is the kind of woman who treats everything she dislikes like a personal attack. Loud, dramatic, bitter, and always complaining to the HOA about children ruining the neighborhood atmosphere. That morning, Emily was walking through the school hallway, holding her books, smiling faintly the way she always does when she knows she's trying her best. Then a shadow appeared beside her. Karen, red-faced, angry, at a child. She grabbed Emily's arm and started accusing her of showing off that metal thing in her mouth. Emily tried to pull away, but Karen didn't let go. No one expected what happened next. In pure rage, Karen reached forward and ripped the bugle right out of Emily's mouth, snapping the wire and sending Emily screaming from pain. But Karen didn't know something crucial. The principal had been standing just a few feet away, and he saw everything. The moment I heard Emily scream, something inside me snapped. I wasn't even supposed to be at the school that morning. I had taken a half day from work to bring her lunch because she forgot it on the kitchen counter, and thank God I did. Because if I hadn't been inside that building, if I hadn't been near that hallway, my daughter would have suffered alone, silently, terrified, and no one would have known the truth about what HOA Karen did. The scream didn't sound like a normal cry. It was sharp, wet, choked, the kind of sound a child makes when pain and fear combine at the exact same second. I dropped the lunch bag to the floor and sprinted. Students were staring. A few whispered. A teacher rushed past me, but even she didn't seem to understand what she was running toward. I didn't care. Every step echoed in my ears like thunder as I tore down the hallway toward the sound of my daughter's voice. And then I saw her. Emily was on the ground near the lockers, knees bent inward, hands shaking violently as she tried to cover her mouth. Blood streaked down her chin, bright and terrifying. Her books were scattered across the floor. Her backpack had been ripped open. Pens, papers, inhaler, everything tossed like it meant nothing. And standing over her, Karen, HOA Karen, wearing her usual royal blue HOA uniform shirt, golden trim sharp against her skin, black pants spotless like she walked out of an argument with a mirror. She wasn't helping Emily. She wasn't calling for help. She wasn't even shocked. She was furious, as if Emily had done something to her. Karen's hand was clenched around the bugle, the medical support device Emily's dentist and surgeon specifically ordered for her jaw. It dangled from Karen's fingers like a cheap toy, snapped, bent, the broken metal shining under the fluorescent hallway lights. This, Karen shouted, waving the damaged bugle in the air, is unacceptable for a school environment. Disgusting. Look at it. Look. Emily scrambled backward, terrified, clutching her bleeding mouth. When she saw me rushing toward her, she whispered, voice trembling, "Mom," she pulled it off. My heart cracked in half. "Emily, I'm here. I'm here. Baby, don't move." I dropped to my knees beside her, pulling her into my arms carefully, feeling her tremble like a leaf in a storm. But Karen wasn't done. "Oh, please," she snapped. "You parents think you can do whatever you want, sending your disabled children around with metal things sticking out of them, making the whole community uncomfortable." She said disabled like it was an insult, Like my daughter should hide. Like she wasn't worthy of existing where people like Karen walked. I stood up slowly, still holding Emily against me. My voice came out low and shaking. You hurt my daughter. You ripped a medical device off her mouth. Do you have any idea what you just... Oh, stop being dramatic. I barely touched her. The thing could have fallen off any time. It didn't fall off, I hissed. You tore it off. Karen scoffed and crossed her arms. Maybe if you parents didn't raise such weak children. Ms. Thompson. The voice that came from behind her was calm, controlled, cold. We both turned. Principal Rodriguez stood just a few feet away, arms behind his back, expression unreadable. He was tall, composed, a man who rarely raised his voice because he didn't need to. Students respected him. Teachers trusted him. Parents appreciated his fairness. But at that moment, his jaw was tight because he had seen everything. Karen straightened immediately, forcing a smile onto her face. Oh, Principal. Good timing. I was just correcting a problem before it got out of... He raised a hand and she fell silent. Ms. Thompson, he said, his voice steady, I have been standing here for the last 26 seconds. Karen blinked. Her mouth twitched. I saw you grab this child. I saw you tear that medical brace from her mouth. I saw you scream at her. I saw everything. For the first time since we moved into this neighborhood, I saw Karen freeze. Not out of fear for my daughter, not out of regret, but because she suddenly realized she'd been caught. I was just trying to make sure she wasn't disrupting school safety, Karen stuttered, waving her hands. This device, this thing, could have been dangerous. I was doing you all a favor. A favor, the principal repeated, stepping closer. You physically assaulted a medically fragile child. Assault? Karen's voice shot up an octave. I didn't assault anyone. She's exaggerating. He turned sharply toward me. Ma'am, he said, please take your daughter to the nurse's office immediately. I'll follow you shortly. Emily whimpered softly, clinging to me. Her mouth was still bleeding. Every breath she took shivered through her tiny body. I've got you, baby, I whispered, kissing the top of her head. We're going. As I began walking her toward the nurse's wing, I heard Karen behind me scrambling. Principal Rodriguez, please, listen me. That girl shouldn't even be in a regular school. She's... He turned on her like a sudden storm. Finish that sentence, he said quietly. Go ahead. Karen swallowed. So hard the sound echoed. I didn't mean... You will follow me to my office, he ordered, his voice icy. Now. But Now. The hallway fell silent. Students, watching from their classroom doors, stared with wide eyes. Some whispered. A few shook their heads. Even they knew Karen had crossed a line she couldn't walk back from. As I carried Emily carefully in my arms, I felt her small fingers twist into the fabric of my shirt. Mom, why did she do that? She whispered through tears. I swallowed the rage burning inside me. Because I wanted to say. Because she's cruel. Because she hates anything different. Because she's always been this way. But Emily didn't need those answers. Not yet. Not while she was bleeding and scared. We're going to nurse, I said softly. You're safe now. I promise. But deep inside me, a storm was rising. Because Karen hadn't just hurt my daughter. She had humiliated her, traumatized her, attacked her disability, and acted like she owned the entire world. And she had no idea. This wasn't going to end quietly. Not after what she did. Not after breaking my daughter's spirit and her medical device. Not after tearing into her like she had the right. This was only the beginning. Because next, the truth would come out, and the entire school would never forget what happened today. The nurse's office smelled like antiseptic and peppermint gum, a strange mix that somehow made Emily relax just a little. Nurse Helen, a soft-spoken woman with silver glasses and warm hands, rushed over the second we stepped inside. Oh my God, Emily, sweetheart, what happened? She had her bugle ripped off, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. A grown woman did it. Nurse Helen froze for half a second, Then her face hardened. She guided Emily gently into the examination chair and began dabbing her bloody mouth with a sterile cloth. She must be in so much pain, these braces and support wires don't just come off. Someone had to use force. She did, I whispered, more than you think. Emily whimpered as Helen carefully lifted her chin to inspect the damage. The inside of her gums were torn. The left side of her jawline was bruising. Her lips were swelling. "Sweetheart," Helen murmured, "does it hurt to breathe?" Emily nodded slightly. I felt a pang of rage spike inside me, hot, sharp, pushing against my ribs. Then Principal Rodriguez entered. He didn't knock. He didn't clear his throat. He walked in like a storm that had chosen its target. "Is she stable?" he asked Helen, voice steady but clipped. "For now," Helen replied. "But she needs a dentist or emergency care soon. The injury looks severe." He nodded, then turned to me. "I've already called the district superintendent, and I've contacted law enforcement." My breath caught. "Law enforcement?" "Yes," he said firmly. "This is assault. This is battery. This is child endangerment. And since she tore off a medical device, it qualifies as aggravated charges." Emily's fingers curled around my sleeve. I placed my hand on hers, squeezing lightly. "You're doing the right thing," I whispered to her. "We're not letting anyone get away with hurting you." Rodriguez crouched down beside the chair until he was at Emily's eye level, a gesture that immediately softened his tone. "Emily," he said gently, "you did nothing wrong. What happened today wasn't your fault. And I promise you, I am not letting anyone hurt you again." Her eyes flickered with confusion and fear, but she nodded. Then the principal stood and gestured for me to step outside the room with him. I followed him into the hallway. His expression changed instantly from gentle to furious. "I have dealt with Karen's behavior for years," he began, forcing his voice low. "Her HOA complaints, her harassment of parents, her constant attempt to control school policies, even though she isn't staff. But today she crossed a line." "She didn't just cross it," I said. "She bulldozed it." He breathed hard through his nose, then ran a hand down his face. "After you left the hallway," he said, "Karen followed me into my office, yelling, claiming she was protecting her community, accusing your daughter of being a hazard, and saying she has the right to intervene whenever she wants." I clenched my jaw. Typical Karen. She kept repeating that children with disabilities should be supervised separately because they make other students uncomfortable. My hands curled into fists so tight my nails dug into my palms. And then, he continued, she demanded I be investigated for allowing Emily into the school. I stared at him. For a moment, I didn't even have words. "She is unstable," I said finally. "She's dangerous." "She's something," he muttered. "And she doesn't think she did anything wrong." He pulled out his phone and turned the screen toward me. It showed a video, a few seconds long. Karen shouting, Karen grabbing, Karen ripping the Beugel, Karen holding it up like a trophy. My mouth fell open. You recorded it?" "No," he said. "A student did. They sent it to me while it was happening. They were too afraid to intervene, but they had the courage to document the truth." A wave of relief washed over me, sharp and overwhelming. "We have evidence," I breathed. "Yes," he said, "irrefutable evidence. And it's going straight to the authorities." Before I could respond, we heard a shrill voice echo down the hallway. "This is ridiculous. Where is he? I won't be ignored." Karen. Her voice ripped through the school corridors like a siren nobody wanted to hear. Principal Rodriguez closed his eyes for a second, the universal sign of a man who was mentally preparing himself for battle. "Stay here," he said. "I'll handle her." "Principal," I started. He lifted a hand. "No, she's my responsibility right now, and I intend to handle her properly." He turned and walked down the hallway, his shoes echoing sharply with each step. Impossibly, the students didn't scatter this time. They peeked from classroom doors. Teachers exchanged glances. Everyone could feel the shift in the air. Something big was about to happen. Then we heard her again. "I want that child removed from this school, and I want her mother held accountable for raising..." Enough. The principal's voice struck like thunder. Silence. Not the quiet kind, the heavy kind that sucked the air out of the hallway. Karen, he said, his tone sharp as glass, you will not speak another word about that child or her mother. Do you understand me? I have rights, she snapped. You have violated every line of the code of conduct for visitors. I didn't do anything. You assaulted a child. She sputtered, waving her arms wildly. You people are all overreacting. Kids today cry over everything. She's fine. Fine, he repeated. She is bleeding. She can barely speak. You tore a device out of her mouth. Karen folded her arms tightly across her chest, a defensive move she always used when she knew she was losing. This isn't my fault, she insisted. She provoked me. That was the moment I stepped closer. Her eyes snapped toward me like daggers. She provoked you by existing? I asked quietly. Karen's mouth twitched. Her nostrils flared. She shouldn't be in this school if she can't handle. Rodriguez raised a hand sharply. Not another word, he warned. Karen, I have notified law enforcement. Officers are on their way. The hallway erupted with whispers. You what? You called the police on me? For assaulting a minor. Yes, I'm not going anywhere with them, she shouted. You think they'll believe you? I'm part of the community board. And I am the principal, he said calmly. And we have video evidence. Karen froze. A crack finally formed in her confidence, small but unmistakable. Video, she whispered. Yes, he said. A clear recording. You grabbing Emily. You ripping the Beugel. You yelling at her. Her skin drained of color. Her lips twitched like she was trying to form words, but couldn't. That was the first moment, the very first, that she realized she might actually face consequences. Rodriguez stepped aside, creating a path toward his office. Sit inside, he ordered quietly, and wait. I don't take orders from. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply said, either sit or the officers will walk you out of this building in handcuffs. Karen blinked rapidly. Then, without another word, she turned stiffly and walked into the office. The door shut behind her, and the school exhaled. I leaned against the wall, finally allowing myself one slow breath. This wasn't over, not even close. But for the first time since the incident, Karen wasn't in control, and she was about to learn what happens when you hurt the wrong child. The nurse had finished cleaning the blood from Emily's mouth, though the swelling had gotten worse. She sat curled up in a reclining chair, clutching a soft teddy bear Nurse Helen kept for scared kids. When she looked at me, her eyes were glassy, full of a pain she didn't deserve. I don't want to go back outside, Mom, she whispered. You won't, I said softly. Not until everything is safe. She nodded, pressing the bear tighter against her chest. A sudden knock on the nurse's office door made her jump. It's okay, Nurse Helen murmured, running a hand gently down her back. You're safe here. Principal Rodriguez opened the door slightly and stepped inside. His expression hadn't softened, not even slightly. 2 officers are here, he said. They want to speak with you first, and then with Emily. Is she required to talk? I asked, lowering my voice. Only if she's comfortable. They understand she's frightened and in pain. They'll move slowly. I exhaled, trying to steady my nerves. And Karen? In my office. She's pacing and talking to herself. She keeps demanding to leave, but I've made it clear she's not stepping out until the officers see her. Of course she was pacing. Of course she was unraveling. That kind of woman, the one who always expected to win, always expected to be right, never handled accountability well. Mom, are the police going to take her? Emily asked, voice trembling. I bent down and brushed her hair behind her ear. If they see the video, I said gently, they will. She looked away for a moment, then whispered, I hope they do. It was the first time I saw anger, tiny, fragile anger, rise inside her, and it broke my heart that she had to feel it all. Stay with her, the principal told Helen, then gestured for me to follow him. We stepped into the hallway. 2 police officers, 1 woman, 1 man, stood waiting near the corridor intersection. Officer Brooks, the woman, greeted me with a professional but gentle nod. "Ma'am, we're very sorry your daughter experienced this," she said. "Can we speak with you for a moment?" "Yes," I replied, squaring my shoulders. The male officer, Officer Hale, pulled out a small notepad. "We want to walk through what happened from your perspective. We already have a video from a student, and it's pretty clear, but your statement matters." I took a deep breath. "My daughter has a disability," I explained. "She wears a Beugel, a medically necessary device." Karen tore it off. Forcefully. She screamed. She bled. She was terrified. Officer Brooks nodded, jaw tightening. "What triggered the woman?" she asked. "Nothing," I replied. "She hates anything that looks different. She hates children who don't fit her perfect picture of the world." She grabbed my daughter while she was walking. Emily didn't fight, didn't talk back, didn't provoke anything. Officer Hale scribbled. "And the principal confirms he witnessed the event?" "Yes." Officer Brooks exchanged a look with Officer Hale. They didn't seem confused. They seemed disturbed. That gave me an odd comfort, because it meant they understood the weight of what happened. "May we speak to Emily?" Brooks asked gently. "She's scared," I warned, "and she's in pain." "We'll go slow," she promised. I led them back into the nurse's office. Emily shrank in her seat when the officers entered, but Nurse Helen stood beside her protectively. "Hi, Emily," Officer Brooks said softly, crouching down so she wasn't towering over her. "My name is Officer Brooks. I'm here to help you. Is it okay if I ask you a few questions?" Emily hesitated, then nodded with small, timid movements. Brooks took out a pen and flipped open her notebook. "Can you tell me what happened?" Emily swallowed hard. She grabbed me, she whispered. She said I was making people uncomfortable, and she pulled the Beugel off. Tears welled in her eyes again. "It hurt," she choked out. "It hurt so much." Officer Brooks reached out, not touching her, just resting her hand nearby as comfort. "You were very brave," she said softly, "and you did nothing wrong. Nothing at all." Emily's lips trembled. Officer Hale then asked, "Did she threaten you? Say anything that scared you?" "She said I shouldn't be in this school," Emily whispered. "She said people like me don't belong." My breath caught, a sharp ache ripping through my chest. Officer Brooks closed her notebook. "That's enough," she said gently. "You don't have to say anything more." Emily nodded and sank into the chair. The officers stepped outside with me. "We've heard enough," Brooks said firmly. "We will be detaining Karen for questioning." I inhaled slowly. Relief flooded my body like warm waves, but mixed with something else. Something dangerous. Something like justice. "Do you want to be present when we speak to her?" Officer Hale asked. "Yes," I answered without hesitation. "Then follow us," Brooks said. We walked down the hallway, the sound of our footsteps echoing. Students peeked from classrooms, teachers stood frozen. The entire school seemed suspended in a moment, watching, waiting. When we reached the principal's office, we could hear her inside, talking to herself. No ranting. "I have rights. I am on the board. This is ridiculous. I won't be treated like a criminal. That girl should be suspended for—" Officer Brooks opened the door, and Karen spun around. Her face was red, sweat beading on her forehead. Hair wild like she'd been pulling at it. "What is going on?" she demanded. "Why are there police here? This is harassment." "Miss Thompson," Officer Brooks said calmly, "we need to speak to you about the assault that occurred in the hallway." "Assault?" Karen shrieked. "You idiots think that was assault? I barely touched her." Officer Hale lifted his phone. "I've reviewed the video." Karen's eyes snapped toward the phone. Panic flickered behind them. That's out of context," she stammered. "Someone edited it. Kids are always editing things these days." Officer Brooks stepped forward. "I'm placing you under investigative detainment for assaulting a minor, causing injury, tearing a medical device, and endangering a child with a disability." Karen's mouth dropped open. "You can't do this to me. I am an HOA member. I make rules. You hear me? Rules." Brooks didn't flinch. "You don't make the rules here." Officer Hale reached for her arm. Karen jerked back violently. Don't touch me. I will sue this entire school. I will sue you. I will. But Hale calmly secured her wrists, turning her slightly. This is temporary detainment, he repeated. Cooperate and this ends smoothly. No, I won't. You have no right. She struggled, twisted, kicked, but she wasn't getting away. And then, her eyes met mine. Malice, rage, hatred. You, she hissed. This is your fault. If your crippled little daughter... The entire room gasped, but she didn't finish the sentence. Because Officer Brooks snapped. Watch your language. Now. Karen froze. For the first time ever, she realized her power meant nothing here. Nothing in front of the truth. Nothing in front of witnesses. Nothing in front of the law. And as they guided her toward the door, she screamed, I will not go down for this. You're all gonna pay. Do you hear me? But her voice faded as the officers escorted her away. The hallway went silent, and Principal Rodriguez turned to me. We're just getting started, he said quietly. This is going to get much bigger than she thinks. I nodded, because deep inside me, one thing was certain, she hurt the wrong child. And this story was far from over. The school halls were still buzzing with whispers long after the officers escorted Karen outside. Kids who normally rushed to lunch now lingered around corners, peeking from behind lockers, texting their friends. Did you see Karen get arrested? She ripped off Emily's Beugel. The police cuffed her. Even teachers looked shaken. Even parents waiting in the lobby had heard fragments of the chaos. But for me, none of that mattered. All I cared about was Emily and justice. I walked back to the nurse's office to check on her again. She was curled up under a soft blanket Nurse Helen had found, cheeks pale, jaw still swelling. When she saw me, she straightened weakly. Did they take her? She whispered. They did, I said softly, and they're not done. Her shoulders eased the tiniest bit, though fear still lingered in her eyes. Can I go home? She asked. Soon. But there are a few more people who need to talk to me first. She nodded and sank back into the pillow. Nurse Helen gave me a reassuring squeeze on the arm before I walked back out. In the hallway, Principal Rodriguez stood near the front office, talking into his phone with a tone that was sharp, clipped, and urgent. Yes, sir. I understand. Yes. Immediately. No, this cannot wait. He hung up and turned toward me. The superintendent is on his way, he said. My eyebrows lifted. The superintendent? Why? Because this incident won't stay inside these walls, he replied. There were dozens of witnesses, videos. Parents have already called the district, and Karen isn't just any community member. What do you mean? He exhaled slowly. I've suspected for a long time that she was using her HOA position to intimidate families and push discriminatory behavior. But this, he gestured toward the hallway, this was the first time she crossed into violence in a school setting. I swallowed. So, the superintendent wants to handle it personally? Yes, he said, and he wants to meet with you. Before I could respond, the front glass doors opened. A tall man in a charcoal suit strode inside. Polished shoes, silver tie, expression intense. Superintendent Harris. Everyone in the district knew his reputation. Serious. Firm. Zero tolerance for injustice or corruption. He walked straight toward us, nodding once. Principal Rodriguez, he said, bring me up to speed. Rodriguez began explaining everything step by step, the assault, the Beugel, the bleeding, the video, the student witnesses, the police intervention, Karen screaming through the halls. Harris listened silently, his expression hardening with every detail. When Rodriguez finished, Harris turned his attention fully to me. Ma'am, he said, I want to apologize on behalf of this district. What happened to your daughter is unacceptable, and I assure you, this matter will not be brushed aside. I nodded slightly. Thank you. She's terrified, and in a lot of pain. I would like to speak to her later, only if she's comfortable, he said. But for now, I need to ask a few questions. Of course. He lowered his voice. Do you intend to press charges against Karen? Yes, I said instantly. No hesitation. She hurt my daughter. She humiliated her. She targeted her disability. She ripped off a medical device. I want full accountability. Harris nodded. Good, because the district will support you. That surprised me. He continued. There is something you should know. Rodriguez stiffened beside him, as if he already knew what was coming. Harris sighed. This isn't the first complaint filed against Karen Thompson. My stomach dropped. What? I whispered. We've received 6 complaints in the past 2 years, Harris said, all involving children, all involving harassment, all involving discriminatory remarks. My throat tightened. What kinds of remarks? I asked slowly. Comments about disabilities, race, background, clothing, behavior, anything she perceived as imperfect. She has targeted children before. But none of those complaints came with tangible evidence. She always manipulated witnesses. She always found a way to blame others. So nothing was done. I asked, voice cracking. Harris looked like the question stabbed him. We tried, but parents withdrew complaints out of fear. Some families moved away. Some kids refused to talk. And since she wasn't technically school staff, our hands were tied, legally. Rodriguez added quietly, she knows how to intimidate people. She uses her HOA authority to threaten families. Fines, citations, violations, she weaponizes her position. I clench my teeth. So she's been hurting kids and escaping consequences. For years, Harris said, an icy anger spread through my chest. But this time, he continued, she made a mistake she can't undo. What mistake? I asked. She hurt a child in a public school hallway, where there were witnesses and cameras, and where the principal saw everything. And where my daughter bled, I whispered. Yes, Harris said. This time, she doesn't get to slither out. Before we could continue, a frantic voice burst through the front entrance. Where is she? My mother did not do anything wrong. A teenage girl stormed in, brown hair, backpack still on her shoulders, eyes wild. A few students followed behind, whispering. Rodriguez stepped forward. And you are? I'm Tessa, Karen Thompson's daughter. My breath froze. Karen had a daughter? Tessa pointed at me aggressively. This is your fault. My mom would never hurt a child. She said your kid attacked her. I blinked, stunned by the audacity. She ripped off my daughter's medical device. I said, in front of half the hallway. She wouldn't. Tessa yelled, you're lying. You're all lying. Her eyes flickered with desperation, not anger, not hatred, fear. A fear that children of volatile parents know too well. Harris sighed and stepped forward. Tessa, he said gently, your mother harmed a student. There is a video. There is, she gasped, not in shock, not in horror, in panic. Delete it, she pleaded. Please delete it. My mom can't, she can't handle. Her words tangled into sobs. Rodriguez's eyes softened. Tessa, he said, you're not in trouble. But your mother is. And she needs to face what she did. She didn't mean to. Tessa cried. She just gets angry. She loses control. But she doesn't mean to hurt people. Please don't arrest her. Please don't take her away. Please. Her voice cracked violently, and suddenly, I understood. Karen wasn't just terrorizing the neighborhood. She wasn't just hurting kids. She was hurting her own daughter, too. Officer Brooks returned from the hallway. Just then, Karen was no longer screaming. She was sitting in the back of the patrol car, handcuffed, shaking, her face twisted with rage and humiliation. But Tessa didn't see rage. She saw something else. She saw the woman who had destroyed her childhood. She's my mom, Tessa whispered brokenly, tears streaming down her cheeks. But she's also the scariest person I know. Everything around us fell silent. Students, teachers, staff, even Superintendent Harris looked shaken. For the first time, the truth wasn't about Karen's power, or her HOA title, or her threats. It was about the damage she left behind, not just to my daughter, but to her own. Harris placed a hand gently on Tessa's shoulder. You're safe, he said. We'll make sure of it. And that was the moment I realized This wasn't just justice for Emily. This was the beginning of exposing the darkness behind Karen's perfect HOA image facade. And the consequences were only just starting. By late afternoon, the school felt like the eye of a hurricane, silent on the surface, but everyone knew destruction was spinning around us. Parents had begun arriving early for pickup, gathering in tight clusters near the front steps, whispering urgently. Some were confused, some were outraged, some looked terrified, but every single one of them was talking about one name, Karen Thompson, the HOA menace, the woman who tore a medical device off a disabled child. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't the one in control of the narrative, because no one knew who had already leaked the video online. It started with a single post, HOA Karen assaults child in school hallway, caught on camera. Within minutes, it spread like wildfire. Parents' group chats lit up. Facebook community pages exploded. Twitter threads multiplied by the second. And in every video repost, every comment section, every shared screenshot, there was my daughter's small, shaking body, her terrified cry. The moment the Beugel was ripped from mouth, I didn't even have time to process the news before my phone started buzzing nonstop. Voicemail, missed calls, messages from neighbors, messages from strangers, some offering support, some offering anger, some offering lawsuits. But none of it prepared me for what was happening back in the nurse's office. Emily sat propped up on the examination chair, the room dimmed to keep her calm. Her jaw was swollen, her lips cracked, her eyes droopy from pain and exhaustion. The teddy bear she held earlier now rested in her lap, limp and forgotten. She wasn't crying, but she wasn't speaking either. "Hey, sweetheart," I murmured, brushing hair from her forehead. "I talked to the superintendent. They're taking this seriously. Everyone's on your side." But she didn't respond. She just stared blankly at the wall. Nurse Helen frowned softly. She's shutting down. The shock is catching up. I knelt beside her. "Baby, I'm here," I whispered. "Talk to me, please." Her lower lip quivered. Then, Mom," she whispered, voice painfully small. Why did she hate me so much? The question shattered my heart. Completely. "Oh, sweetheart." I breathed, pulling her close without touching her sore jaw. "She didn't hate you. She hates herself. She hates anything that reminds her she's not perfect. You didn't do anything wrong." But she looked at me like I was trash, Emily whispered. Like I shouldn't exist. I swallowed, blinking back tears. "You exist because you're strong, brave, and important," I told her. "And people like her, they don't get to decide who belongs." Her shoulders trembled. Then she finally broke. Her sobs were soft at first, little whimpers that cracked into the room. Then they grew. Full, shaking cries as she clutched her teddy bear, so tightly her knuckles turned pale. "W wasn't doing anything," she cried. "I was just walking. Why did she hurt me?" I held her gently, careful of every bruise, letting her cry into my shoulder. Because she needed to release this. Because she had been holding the pain in for too long. Because she deserved to be a child, safe, protected, and loved. Nurse Helen dabbed at her tears with a soft tissue. "She's safe now," she whispered. "You're safe, sweetheart." It took almost 10 minutes for her to settle. 10 long minutes where I felt every heartbreak echo through my bones. Once Emily calmed, Rodriguez appeared at the doorway again, hesitant, careful. "I'm sorry," he said softly, "but we need to discuss the next steps." I kissed Emily's forehead gently. "I'll be back in a minute." Reluctantly, I followed him out. We met Superintendent Harris in the hallway, along with a woman I didn't recognize, polished suit, briefcase, sharp eyes. "This is Ms. Armitage," Harris said. "She's the district legal counsel." I nodded. "What's happening now?" She opened her folder briskly. "With the video circulating, we expect immediate community backlash," she said. "The district board has already convened an emergency meeting. Karen's attorney contacted us an hour ago. They're insisting the video was manipulated." Manipulated? I scoffed. "Half the school saw it happen." "Which is why we're preparing an official statement," Armitage replied. "The district cannot afford misinformation. And your daughter cannot afford additional stress. Rodriguez added, parents are demanding answers. They want to know how someone like Karen was allowed inside the school without supervision. Ms. Armitage then dropped the next bomb. And Karen is now threatening to sue the school. I blinked. For what? Defamation, emotional distress, wrongful detainment. I laughed once, short, humorless. She assaulted my daughter. On camera. In front of a principal. Yes, Armitage said, which means her lawsuit won't go anywhere. But her lawyers will attempt to spin the narrative. They're already pushing the claim that Karen acted in defense of her community. Her community? I repeated. My daughter was walking quietly in a hallway. She claimed your daughter was behaving dangerously, Harris said with disgust. You can imagine how that will play publicly. I pressed my fingers against my temples. So what now? Armitage snapped her folder closed. Now, we stay ahead of her. The district supports you. The police support you. And the community, after watching that video, overwhelmingly supports you. She paused. But Karen won't go quietly. People like her don't fold. They escalate. Just then, my phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Your lies will destroy your child. Stop now. Another. You think you can take down Karen? You will regret this. I showed the messages to Harris. His expression darkened. These are threats. Rodriguez stepped forward. From who? Karen. Armitage studied the numbers. No, these appear to be from HOA board members. My breath hitched. The HOA? They're attacking us now. Yes, Harris said. Some of them are fiercely loyal to Karen, especially the ones she helped or intimidated. So now, the whole HOA is turning into a mob? Not all of them, Rodriguez said, but enough to be dangerous. Ms. Armitage looked at me seriously. I recommend documenting every message, every threat, every contact. You'll need this for the restraining order. Emily's tears echoed in my mind. Her shaking voice. Her broken spirit. No one else is ever going to hurt her again, I whispered. Harris placed a hand on my shoulder. You're not alone in this, he said. But at that moment, before we could say another word, the school doors slammed open again. A local news crew entered. Cameras, microphones, bright lights. Are you the mother of the victim? The reporter asked breathlessly. We need a statement. Rodriguez stepped between us instantly. No, not here. Not now. But it was too late. The story had exploded. The community was watching. The HOA was pushing back. Karen's lawyers were preparing for war. And Emily was still bleeding. Every battle, every headline, every threat. It was all building. And the storm was about to reach its peak. By the next morning, the entire community felt different, charged, tense, humming with an energy that told you something big was coming. Every street corner buzzed with conversation. Every parent's meeting turned into a debate. Every kid in school whispered the same sentence. Today's the hearing. The emergency district board disciplinary hearing was scheduled for noon. No press, no outsiders, just parents, school staff, the district panel, and Karen. I didn't want to bring Emily, but the superintendent insisted she come only for a few minutes to speak if she wanted, or just to be seen so the board could understand the gravity of what happened. So I held her hand tightly as we walked through the school entrance. She wore a soft white hoodie, her hair tied gently so it didn't touch the bruising near her jaw. Her mouth was still swollen and sore, but she was walking, brave, quiet, a little nervous. The moment we stepped inside, the hallway fell silent. Students stopped. Teachers paused mid-sentence. Parents turned their heads slowly. Then something unexpected happened. One student stepped forward, maybe 14, long brown hair, backpack slung over one shoulder. She whispered, I'm sorry for what happened to you. Another student joined her. Then another. And another. Soon there were 10. Then 20. Then more. A small crowd formed around Emily, gentle, supportive, protective. Not pushing. Not overwhelming. Just present. Emily looked up at me, eyes wide. They're here for you, I whispered. Her lips twitched. Not a smile yet, but the closest thing since the attack. Principal Rodriguez eventually approached. The board is ready. Are you? I nodded. The district hearing room was a large auditorium-style space with wooden panel tables, microphones, and rows of chairs lined behind us. Board members sat at the front, 6 of them, serious, stiff, prepared. Across the room sat Karen. For the first time since I met her, she looked small. Her royal blue HOA shirt was wrinkled, her hair messy, her face pale. She sat between 2 lawyers who whispered aggressively into her ear every few seconds. She kept glancing around nervously at the board, at the superintendent, at the principal, at me, and at Emily. The moment her eyes landed on my daughter, something flickered across her face. Shame? Anger? Fear? It was hard to tell. Her jaw tightened, her shoulders stiffened. Superintendent Harris opened the hearing. This board is convened under emergency protocol to address a grave incident. The physical assault of a student, Emily Parker, by a community member, Karen Thompson. He continued, voice sharp, "We are here to review the evidence, testimonies, and determine immediate disciplinary and legal action." Karen's lawyer raised a hand. "Before we begin." Harris cut him off. "There will be no interruptions. Not today." The room exhaled. The first witness called was me. I stepped forward, hand on Emily's shoulder, and told the board exactly what happened. Every detail, every scream, every drop of blood. Karen scoffed loudly halfway through. The board chair shot her a glare. "One more interruption, Miss Thompson, and you will be removed from this room." I continued. When I finished, Harris pulled up the hallway video behind us on a large monitor. The room gasped when the footage showed Karen grabbing Emily. The ripping sound of the Beugel echoed through the speakers like a thunderclap. Someone in the back muttered, "My God!" Another whispered, "She really did it?" Karen's lawyer whispered intensely into her ear. She shook her head, then stood up abruptly. "That video is taken out of context," she shouted. "She provoked me. She was making noises." "Noises?" I repeated. "You mean breathing?" The board murmured angrily. Rodriguez gave his testimony next. He described watching the assault. He described Karen's reaction. He described her screaming, pacing, and refusing to stop. "We have dealt with Ms. Thompson's hostility for years," he added carefully. But this crossed every line. The board chair nodded solemnly. Next, they called Emily. I immediately rose. "She's scared. She's not well." "You don't have to speak if you don't want to," Harris said gently. Emily's little hand squeezed mine. "I want to," she whispered. I guided her to the microphone. She stood on a small wooden crate, so she could reach. Her voice trembled. "I was just walking to class," she said softly. "I didn't say anything. I didn't touch anyone. I wasn't doing anything wrong." The board watched her like they were watching a wounded bird speak for the first time, and then she grabbed me. Her voice cracked. She pulled my bugle off. It hurt. A lot. Tears welled in her eyes. It made me scared to come back to school. Someone in the audience sniffed. A teacher wiped her eyes discreetly. Emily took a shaky breath. "I didn't do anything wrong," she whispered again. "I just want to feel safe." She stepped back and the room fell silent. Karen's lawyer tried to stand. "We request." Harris slammed his gavel. "You request nothing. Your client assaulted a disabled child." Karen's face flushed red. "You're all being dramatic," she screamed. "She's not even that hurt. Kids cry over everything." There it was, the real Karen, the monster behind the HOA badge. The board chair stood. "Karen Thompson, we have reviewed the evidence. We have heard the testimonies, and we have reached a conclusion." Karen's breathing hitched. "Effective immediately, you are banned from all school grounds, school events, and district properties indefinitely." Karen blinked. "Indefinitely?" "Yes," the chair continued. "Additionally, we are issuing a formal recommendation to law enforcement to pursue charges including child endangerment, battery, and aggravated assault." Karen's mouth fell open. And finally, Harris added, "Your HOA position is being formally reported to the County Ethics Board for abuse of power and discriminatory harassment." Karen staggered backward. gripping the table for support. "You can't do this," she whispered. "I built that HOA. I made the rules." "And now," Harris said coldly, "you will face them." Karen's tears finally fell, not from remorse, but from humiliation. Her lawyer whispered frantically, but the board chair lifted the gavel. "This hearing is adjourned." She brought the gavel down. A sharp, echoing crack. Justice. Immediate. Final. Undeniable. As people began exiting, Emily reached up and tugged the sleeve of my shirt. "Mom?" "Yes, baby." She smiled. A small smile, but a real one. "Can we go home now?" I knelt, hugged her carefully, and whispered, "Yes, and you're safe. No one will ever hurt you again." And for the first time since the attack, she believed it. Before you scroll away, I want to leave you with one message. No child deserves fear. No parent deserves silence. And no bully, no matter how loud, powerful, or entitled, is ever too big to fall. If this story touched your heart even a little, do me one thing. Backhand index pointing right, comment the name of your city. I love seeing where my community is watching from. Tell me where you stood with Emily today, and if you're a parent or you've ever stood up for someone who couldn't fight back. Backhand index pointing right, hit that subscribe button right now. Join this channel so we can keep telling the stories that matter, the stories that expose injustice, celebrate courage, and remind the world that kindness is strength, not weakness. Your one click helps this community grow, and it tells YouTube that these stories deserve to be seen. So, drop your city below. Subscribe for more powerful stories. And remember, heroes aren't superhumans. Heroes are the people who stand up, even when their voice shakes. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.